John.
Nick.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. My daughter just came up here for a second ago and was asking if she could watch television. She's been very, very nervous about it because at her school lately, and I'm sure you've heard about this in the news, at her school lately, they've been talking about Momo, the bird lady that's showing up on social media. Not just on social media, but on YouTube and some of those other outlets. So she's been very careful. She's been good about it. She's like, hey, can I watch TV? And then we say, yes, but only Netflix, because Netflix doesn't have commercials and we don't have to worry about it. But I have read some articles since and they've disproved the whole Momo thing. And I understand it. But I did read an interesting article online that the artist that created the statue of Momo had no idea what this whole thing was until he read an article, and he was so distraught by it that he let everyone know that the statue had been destroyed, that it no longer existed. And what had happened is he created it. He was doing some sort of art installation, and I'm probably messing this up a little bit because I don't remember all the details, but he was doing some sort of art installation that he was creating statues and other pieces of art that represented mythological creatures from some of the Japanese fairy tales from the past. And the Chicken Lady, I guess, was one of them, and he had created it. And he said that it had sat at this art installation and no one was really paying attention to it, but obviously someone was, because they snapped a picture and turned it into Momo. And that's kind of how the whole thing started.
Well, you look at, when you look at this Momo creature, and forgive me because that's, I don't know anything other than what you just told me, but it looks like a Tim Burton character from Nightmare Before Christmas.
It does. Yeah. It really does. And that's one thing I found fascinating about it. Even Tim Burton again, but Beetlejuice. Yes. It looks like when Alec Baldwin pulled his face and did that stretchy nose thing. Yeah. That's exactly what it looks like.
His face didn't stay that way, did it?
Well, it did for a second because Delia came in and she was freaked out by what the faces of the two characters look like. And the woman whose name just escaped my head, can't think of her name. What is her name? Who played? Dude, you are a freak for Beetlejuice, apparently. Oh yeah, I just watched it. I mean, Halloween was what? 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
You just watched it, okay? That makes me feel better.
I'm a fan of 80s movies, and I do think that we should have an episode about movies in general one of these days. But
I think that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Because I'm all about, especially the 80s movies, Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, Goonies. I could probably tell you exactly what happened in every single one. I could probably do the scripts verbatim.
I could do Ghostbusters for sure.
Speaking of Ghostbusters and social media, have you seen the trailer that was released for the new Ghostbusters? They're planning an actual Ghostbusters 3. Really?
And who's going to be in it? Is it going to be?
It's going to be Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray. Hopefully, yep. It's going to be directed, or it's planning to be directed by Ivan Reitman's son, who I can't remember his first name, but he's Reitman, with help from Ivan himself. So it's bringing the whole team back, except obviously for Egon, because Egon passed away.
Yeah, I was just going to say that he died.
Yeah. Huh. So I'm really looking forward to it, and there's a lot of chatter, I guess, in all the channels on social media, because one thing they found, one of the reasons they're doing it, the third one that came out, the one that replaced the cast with all female cast, which I honestly didn't think it was all that bad. I mean, not my favorite. It wasn't what I expected, because I was hoping that it would really stay in the same vein as the original Ghostbusters, but it didn't. But one of the biggest complaints a lot of people had was how they really promoted that movie through use of social media, and that they had a lot of people, similar to our political system right now, had a lot of people that they had put in place to really amp it up and to kind of push down all the other things that people were saying about the movie, and really most of the advertising, most of the promotion that came out of that movie was pushed through social media.
So it doesn't matter that they used female characters as far as I'm concerned. I don't have any problem with that. But it was just kind of a letdown, the whole thing, not unlike Anchorman 2, where, you thought, oh man, they've been in production for so long and it's, 10 years later or whatever it was. And it was just kind of a letdown. And they used the same character.
It was. And the perfect statement that was made. I was watching a YouTube video on it, and the gentleman that was doing the review and talking about what actually happened with this particular movie was that the director is well known in the industry for making spoof films about certain things. Like he made some spy films that were in the vein of James Bond, but they weren't James Bond. It was just kind of making fun of it. And this Ghostbusters was not meant to make fun of Ghostbusters or to be a spoof on Ghostbusters, but it ended up being that. And if they would have taken the movie and renamed it and not called it Ghostbusters, called it something else in the same vein as Ghostbusters, it probably would have been an extremely successful movie. Because, like I said, it wasn't all that bad. It just wasn't what I expected. It wasn't Ghostbusters. It had nothing to do with the original Ghostbusters, and it almost made fun.
And I think that's probably what most people were distressed about, if there's such a thing, Yes.
Yeah. Which is why now they're talking about doing a third one. Now, I would recommend all of our listeners there's a statement that Dan Aykroyd made about the third movie that already came out, the all female cast. He was a big supporter of it. He was a producer. He's still got a stake in the entire Ghostbusters business, so he's definitely involved, and he was involved with that movie. But man, after that movie came out, he bashed it. So I would look up an interview with Dan Aykroyd about the newest Ghostbusters, if anyone's curious, because it's interesting and it's all over social media. Yeah. But speaking of social media, I think, we had discussed earlier, I think that's our topic for today. So what exactly about social media did you want to talk about, John?
Well, I just make things up, me. But for social, it is interesting, if I say so myself, because I just recently in the last week got back on Facebook, and that's odd for me because I was off for so long, and for most of the time I was glad that I wasn't engaged. And I've had some exposure with Twitter. Twitter just turns into kind of a hate fest, it seems like. So that was easy enough to kind of back away from. Instagram's okay. I don't post much. I'm more of a voyeur when it comes to Instagram.
Wow. I mean, you must be really getting comfortable with this podcast thing, because you're admitting a lot here, buddy.
I mean, of course, hypothetically, were I a voyeur, I would be like I am on Instagram. That didn't really come out well either, but
no. So, at least it's not Georgia. Georgia, you can peek into people's windows and not get in trouble unless you're touching yourself.
Wow. You know a lot about Georgia.
Well, that was one of the first things I learned. I lived in Atlanta for 2 years, and that was one, strangely enough, and maybe I ran in the wrong crowds, but that was one of the first things someone told me about Georgia.
I'd say you definitely ran in the wrong crowds.
Yeah, it was a lot of police officers and firefighters. So.
What a shock! That's awesome. So you hit on the Momo thing. There seems to be, and so let's touch on this anyway. There's just weirdness that comes from social media, it seems like, and it's not. And I don't mean to make lightly of the manslaughter charges against some of these people who are causing people to kill themselves, or what? Have you heard about that recent one?
No, I haven't heard about that. No, we've been focused on Momo.
Well, a girl who apparently talked a friend into killing himself, and he did, and she got charged.
Oh, yeah. Was that social media or was that texting?
What's that?
I thought that was texting. Was that social media?
Texting or so? Well, I'm not certain of that, but I know
it's probably a mixture of
instances on Facebook that have happened.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is weird.
Well, and this is completely going in the opposite direction. Did you know that that Twitter is actually based on SMS, which is texting? It's not anymore, but that's how it started out. It was almost a group texting tool.
That doesn't surprise me, given the character limitations from the beginning and all of that.
Yeah. So go on with your story.
Fine.
That was my little bit of useless knowledge. Remember, that's on my business card. Vessel of useless knowledge.
I was just going to touch on some of the other stupid things like, I don't know, Tide Pods.
Oh,
where does that crap come from?
I know. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's someone sitting somewhere has a very sick mind, and for some reason they just want to share it. Now, there was a statement made by one of the social media giants CEOs that I truly believe social media. Well, actually, maybe it was Kara Swisher. I think might be the one who said it. And Kara is a journalist that focuses a lot on tech and social media companies. So she said, social media is one of the greatest gifts that we could possibly have in our society, and also one of the most dangerous things to expose ourselves to in modern society. And that's not a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing, but it's very, very true. We have so many good things that social media can offer us, but with it, just like everything else, there's so many bad things that come along with it. And I think there are bad actors, and bad actors are out there, and they're going to take advantage of loopholes or their ability to inflict damage on people who may not be strong enough to fight it. Momo's the example, and what you're talking about with the Tide Pods and things like that. I think those are perfect examples of bad actors out there who want to take advantage of weak people. Weak people. It's probably not a very good way to say that. It's the only thing that came to my brain while I was speaking. Sometimes my brain doesn't tell my mouth the right things to say, but
I'm not sure that's the wrong thing, though. So let's talk about that for a moment.
Or maybe easily influenced.
Well, maybe, but people have to have some responsibility for that too. So if you're hammering Tide Pods because somebody told you to on social media, and then they're showing videos on YouTube of themselves doing it, and oh man, that's funny. It's the old, if Tommy jumped off a cliff, would you do it? It's the same thing. And
not Tommy, but if you would, I did. If you did, I would.
I guess it depends.
And posted on social media.
Zip line, maybe.
Well, okay.
I still probably wouldn't do that. The weight limit on the zip line, I'm afraid it'd be a little bit too light for me.
No, sorry, go on.
But I think there is some responsibility, at very least, to be doled out to the people that are influenced by this stuff. So, I feel terrible, of course, if someone was, and let's face it, teenagers are always a little bit moody, potentially. I know I was when I was a teenager. And so I really think that anybody who is affected by some of these things, whether it's Tide Pods or heaven forbid, committing suicide because someone talks you into it, everybody has a responsibility, an accountability, if you will, to protect themselves. So you watch somebody hammering Tide Pods. I'm sorry, that's not going to make me excited about doing it.
Right. They should definitely, instead of hammering them, they should smoke them. Right. Is that what you're saying?
I would roll. Can you roll them? I didn't know if.
Well, they kind of roll. They're very jiggly.
We could invent a Tide Pod pipe.
Ooh, that's a good one. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
I'm here to help. Yeah, now we're part of the problem.
Right. PoddiMouths.
Because that's
part
how
of the problem.
So the other one, cinnamon. Remember the teaspoon of cinnamon?
I don't remember that one. I like to put a teaspoon of cinnamon in my coffee when I make it.
I do too. Try to put it right directly in your mouth. Cut out the middleman.
No, thank you.
Oh my gosh! And
I used to do that when I drank hot apple cider. I would take the stick out, put it in my mouth, and chew on it a little.
All you had to say in that sentence was, "I used to do that when I drank." That would be even better,
right?
There are YouTube videos galore of mostly kids taking a teaspoon of cinnamon, which you think wouldn't be, because I'm like you, I love cinnamon and coffee and so on, or cider. But man, it just people choking on it or inhaling it or something. And there's some pretty ridiculous videos of that stuff. So, wow. I think if you're going to do that, then you have some culpability.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Really or I have seen the snorting of Smarties. That's been around since the 90s, but now there are videos out there of people doing it too, and that's just crazy.
Smartie snorting.
Smartie snorting. You know what Smarties are?
I've heard of them, but no, I don't. Off the top of my head. It's
the candies that come in it's a plastic wrap, but they're all the same size, so it comes out and looks like a tube, and they're just individual little bitty candies. But they create a dust, and people used to smoke them too. You could open up both ends of the package and smoke or inhale the dust and blow it out, and it makes a big powdery mess.
Well, they used to do that with the old bubblegum cigarettes. Do you remember those?
Yes.
You're too young.
Yep. No, I remember those very well.
Okay.
They used to be some of my favorite, and the candy itself is still one of my favorite candies. I just love the way it tastes. But yeah, that was talk about bad advertising. But you make a fantastic point there, because those have been around forever.
Yes.
And people have been doing those things forever. It's a marketing tool. So I'm wondering, and this is going way out in left field. And as I'm throwing my right hand to the right side of my body and I'm saying left field, I have not been smoking Smarties. Anyway, that sort of marketing has been around for so many years. And I'm wondering if some of these things that are showing up on our social media outlets or our social media platforms are maybe some of these marketing companies pushing those sort of things out there to try to drive more interest in their product. Even though it's negative in many ways, negative connotation, it's still driving people to that product and getting that name out there.
Well, yeah, it's still promotion. As a friend of mine who owned a business used to say, he doesn't care if he gets bad press because it's still better than no press at all.
Absolutely. And we actually tell our clients now that bad reviews on Google aren't necessarily a bad thing. It's how you handle those reviews that could save you, because there are a lot of customers that will actually seek out the bad reviews and look and see how you responded to it.
Yeah, you do not want to be, as a business owner, a 5.0 on Google, because inherently potential consumers think you're scamming the system somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so you want to be a 4.8 or a 4.5 or whatever. And you're exactly right. They want to see some evidence of how you handle negativity, because that really is as important as that old axiom that states your customers will tend to be more loyal if they have a problem and you handle it effectively than if they never had the problem in the first place.
That's exactly right. And I think too, with reviews, people are used to the social media and the conversations that people have. And they also realize when they read a bad review that some of these people might just be putting up bad reviews because maybe they had a bad experience. They had to wait an extra 5 minutes.
Right.
Most people, I think, are smart enough to look at some of those reviews and go, okay, this person's just complaining to complain.
Well, and they will judge that person. You're absolutely right. It's the lady who pulls up to the drive-up window and her burger's taking too long, so she pulls a gun on the drive-through person. Really?
Exactly. Yeah. I would rather have a Google review than a gun pulled on me, personally.
I don't
know about you. Than a gun. I'd rather have a Google review done about my business rather than having a gun pulled on me.
It depends if I have a bigger gun, I guess.
It could be dangerous either way.
But that's, yes.
Deadly. I mean, that Google review is so deadly.
So you hit on something beautiful, and it's something that one of my favorite speakers.
Did I mention myself again?
Talked about. You did, which was beautiful. Again, beautiful. Jim Rohn was a guy that I've seen live several times before he died. But he used to say, what's not important is what happens to you. What's important is what you do with what happens to you.
Oh, I love that.
Well, and it's true because you got to take some responsibility for yourself, and how you react to things is critical to what it means in your head. And some people, well, that's just, whimsy and it's just a talking point. But I really think that if you focus purposely and purposefully on how you react to things, and make your reaction what you want it to be, rather than, out of anger or out of a short-sightedness, man, it just makes such a big difference in how things impact you.
And you make a very good point there too, because I think that is one of those areas on social media where we could excel, and it could be extremely, or is in many cases, very, very valuable. We have the ability now to have an open conversation with millions of people that we didn't have access to. We were very siloed in the areas that we lived, and unless you traveled a lot or you were famous enough to have a radio show or be on television, you weren't able to get your opinion out there. Now we have that ability to get our opinions out there. We can create podcasts and talk about things that are important to us, and we can have open conversations with people. A lot of times, however, I think those open conversations go a little bit too far. We hear people complain about that on Twitter all the time, as you had mentioned at the beginning, with all of the negativity that you find on Twitter. Some people just want to get their voices heard just to get their voices heard, and they don't necessarily pay attention to the message. I saw actually a post on, I'm trying to think which network. I'm on all of them, and part of it is because of what we do, and that's one of the reasons I know you had gone back to Facebook, is because part of what we do requires us to know what's going on social media. Not necessarily know what's going on, but know the platform itself, so we can effectively help our clients market on those platforms. But I saw a post. Actually, it was my wife who sent it to me. It was Messenger. I remember it now. And it was a meme about the difference between daydreaming when we were growing up and what is now diagnosed as ADHD. And it was very innocuous and very funny, because something that my wife and I have dealt with. My daughter's teacher last year was all about everyone in the class having ADHD and having to get tested. She was of a younger generation. And then her teacher this year is of an older generation. And her conversations with us say, Peyton daydreams a lot. Not Peyton has ADHD or ADD. So, we joke about it a lot, and it's something I'm setting that whole thing aside, because that is a completely different conversation. That's a completely different issue that my wife and I are working with our family. So it's not something we take lightly, but it was just funny that this meme had said that, because it does make a lot of sense to us, having dealt with what we're going through. But I was noticing the comments below, and someone just went off on how important it is not to ignore the signs of ADHD, and that they've had experience with it, and daydreaming isn't a thing, and on and on and on and on.
Wow!
And you just sit there with your mouth wide open, going, "Lady, did you not read everything else? Did you not read the context that this was behind? Did you not actually read the comments that the original author put about this meme? If you would have, you might have a different reaction. But instead, you want to go off and go completely left field again about what this means and how you're offended. And I understand if someone's offended. I'm fine with that. But you know what? Let's have an open conversation and not vilify anyone because they have an opinion, or because they wanted to share a joke because they're going through an experience that the rest of us are going through as well.
That's a really important distinction. You have the right to be offended. You don't have the right to tell somebody else that you don't ever want to be offended again.
Right.
Free speech goes both directions.
Absolutely.
And that's what's beautiful about this country is that it's open to a conversation. And if we had better conversations rather than
attacking people,
nasty,
yes,
it would make such a big difference. But some people just want to shut down anybody's opinion that is different from their own, and you can't do that.
No, you can't.
You
shouldn't.
That's not a conversation. That's a monologue.
That's exactly what it is. And it drives me absolutely nuts. If she would have said, okay, let's talk about this. I'm going to say I'm offended by this, and this is why. Completely different conversation. Now she's opening it up. Maybe ask questions.
Well, and you don't even have to say you're offended.
No, you don't.
I mean, that kind of changes the dynamic. You can say, well, let me give you a different viewpoint.
Exactly.
And, you know, because my daughter had, or my son had XYZ, and I think that it's important to diagnose. Okay, well, then at least it makes sense to have that chat. But beyond that, you know, you're just taking your opinion and you're amplifying it by, you know, saying how offended you are and that you don't have the right to say what you're saying. Right. Well, yeah, you do.
Right. Yep.
Interesting. That's, you know, but I do find that, and just as a side note, and without getting personal with your situation, I find it interesting that there are, you know, so we never heard of ADD or ADHD when we were kids.
Right.
And so I'm not saying that it wasn't a thing. It may have been. I loved how you put it, daydreaming, because there were a lot of us who daydreamed, daydreamt when we were kids. And I don't know as it's inherently a bad thing, but you know, you also look at diagnoses like autism and Asperger's syndrome and so on. And those were not things really that were brought up. Probably autism was, but not very often. Right. Well, you didn't hear about it often.
We didn't hear about it because we didn't know about it.
Well, maybe, but I mean, autism's been around. It just seems like it has become much more widespread, and so we're labeling a lot of different things as being that. And I'm not trying to minimize it or maximize it for that matter. It's just interesting to me how it's changed over time.
I 100% agree with you. And I think I think quite honestly, social media has a lot to do with it as well, because it is a platform to amplify people's opinion, as you had said, and whether it's a good opinion or a bad opinion, it should be an open conversation. These things are things that need to be talked about.
Whether it's good or bad, it gets amplified. That's an excellent point. And I think you're right. That's what it does.
It's a great platform for that. That's what we teach. And that's so one of my problems personally is the fact that I think that of social media. I don't avoid social media. I don't like Facebook all that much. A lot of my friends are very politically, I wouldn't say politically active, but they have their political opinions and they post them on Instagram, on Facebook and things like that. Both sides of the line, you know, both parties. Yep. And that's fine. But I personally don't engage. I don't share my opinions on a lot of things unless it is super egregious, and it's very rare. I think maybe I've shared my opinion twice in the last 10 years about something. It wasn't political, and I stay away from religion, but I do that in conversation as well. So I look at social media as just another place to have a conversation with people. You know what? I was going to say, if you and I had a conversation, which we have, we've had dinner and stuff before. I tend to, again, this is a personal thing. I tend to avoid conversations about politics or religion, unless I'm with someone I know has about the same level of knowledge that I do, whether I have a lot or very little. I'm not saying I know more, and that's why I don't do it. A lot of times I won't have a conversation because I know I don't know enough. And my conversation is going to be more questions than actually having an opinion.
You are a unique individual in that, because there are a whole lot of people that know nothing and engage really heavily.
You are absolutely right. And that's a great point too, because I think in many cases, that's what we see on social media. We see a lot of people with opinions that really aren't educated about the topic. And it frustrates me.
Well, and don't see the need to
be, exactly, you know? Because their opinion is correct, and that's that. You know, there's no other thing. There's no other opinion than theirs. And I think people that are more educated about a topic tend to be more open to other people's opinions.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it is unusual. I mean, based on what you said, it's easier not to engage with some of this stuff. If someone asks me a question though, about, you know, what I think about something political or something to do with my faith or whatever, I'm happy to talk about it. I think
absolutely.
I think that's fine, especially, when you're friends. If it's even a work colleague, a friend that you have gotten to know over time, like us, for example, I would be more than comfortable having a conversation with you, because it would be a conversation where there are some people I just don't want to engage. So this last week, I've added friends every day, and a lot of them, in fact, all of them, have been Facebook friends that I've had in the past. And they're great, and I've hidden several because of the political speak that they put out there. And like bullhorn actually is what I was looking for. and I'm still, it's funny because I've forgotten who has what opinion, but now that I've added them, I'm starting to see these posts of stuff that I may or may not agree with. And I will not engage because that's what makes me angry about Facebook and other social media.
Yeah. I think too, social media can influence people in that same vein. There are people out there that we might in the past have been able to have a conversation with, but now that they've kind of taken action on social media and really started pushing their agenda, I'm less likely to talk to them because they seem very definitive in their beliefs. I have a good friend that I have noticed that I used to have very long, in-depth conversations about things, and we would have debates or conversations. And this was a guy. The conversations were phenomenal, and there was times where he would change my mind, and vice versa. I would change his mind on a lot of topics, and also we had very similar leanings when we were young. I'm talking back in my teens and 20s. But now, as we get older, I'm still very good friends with him, and love him to death, trust him with my life. It's one of those really good friendships. But I don't think I could have a political or religious conversation with him anymore because he has gotten so myopic in his views on things that I don't know if I would trust him.
And some people do as they age, and I may be one of those people, but you, and I'm not saying this to be patronizing, you have a great fairness in your sense about interacting with people. So I think you are unusual, unfortunately, in today's, especially in social media.
Well, at least someone else can recognize that I'm unusual. I usually tell people I'm a very unusual person, but for other reasons, John.
And do you get much argument about that? Just curious.
No, not usually. No. I'm trying to engage people in conversation and I get nothing.
Okay, so let's segue to privacy on social media.
Ooh.
What's your? Well, it is, and I think it's a double-edged sword. You've got to let go of certain things, but there are other things you're trying to protect, and especially when you're talking about your family or your home address or even your phone number or whatever. Right. How do you feel about that, and what's your take on the overall landscape of privacy when it comes to social?
I'll start with a mistake I think my wife made in the beginning, and this was. Social media still seem it is new, period. It's still very new, but it has been around for a while now. If I think about it, it's whether you're talking about Friendster, going all the way back to Friendster or MySpace, right. And then into Facebook and things. One thing that my wife and I did do is very early, and we had a rationale for it. We live in Tennessee. Most of my family lives in Minnesota and North Dakota, and most of her family is spread out here in the Southeast, but we don't live near family. So as our family was growing, we started sharing pictures of my daughter online very, very early. I still don't necessarily have a problem with that per se, because my accounts are locked down. And I do believe that I have a different level of experience with a lot of these things, so I can lock it down a little bit. Doesn't mean my stuff isn't safe. Doesn't mean it's not accessible, but it's not just out there. So I do have a lockdown to a certain level, but we do take a lot of pictures and share those photos of my daughter online. If you went to my Instagram feed and you were a friend of mine, because it's locked, you can't see it if you're not a friend, you would see mostly pictures of my daughter.
And may I just say, as one of your friends, she is beautiful.
Well,
what a
thank you.
Sweetie.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
She definitely gets that from her mother.
Yeah, I just assumed that.
Yeah. Oh, good. Most people do.
Yeah.
Anyway, the side story, when she was born, the doctor said right away, because Peyton had a full head of hair, she definitely doesn't take after her dad. Like, thanks, Doc. You don't even know me, but that was a good joke. I like that.
What does your UPS guy look like?
Yeah, strangely enough, Peyton used to stand at the window and see the UPS go by and say, "Daddy."
That's awesome.
That was the only word she knew at the time, but it's still pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. You don't have to tell the surrounding story. Just the outcome is perfect.
Well, I like context. If you haven't been able to tell yet,
not for that one. That's better.
Anyway, so the mistake we made was, Peyton didn't have a decision in the whole process. She was too young. Sure. She didn't know what social media was. She didn't even know how to talk for most of the times we were posting images. I personally think that the mistake we made was not allowing her to make the choice of whether or not we posted her image on social media. I do think right now she does have that ability, whether she fully understands or not. We do our best to explain what it means and social media in itself. And she's very young, so she's still naive about it. I plan on really walking her through all of this as she ages, so she understands the choices that she makes when she starts posting things on social media. But she didn't have a choice. And I do believe that was probably a mistake on our part. We should have given her a choice. I see people now that are posting pictures of their children, but they're blurring out the faces, so doing the things the stars have been doing for a long time, the movie stars and musicians, trying to hide their children's faces. And I fully support that. I think that's probably a good thing to do to protect your children as they age, until they can make a conscious decision whether or not to post their image. Now, does that mean that we're going to stop? No, because my daughter actually now said, "Hey, can you take a picture of me and post it on Instagram so Grandpa Stevie can see it?" Awesome. Because it still is. It's still a tool that we use for my family to share the life experiences that we have, because they don't get to see her. My dad has maybe seen my daughter twice in person. Because we don't get to get up there very often. So This is a good way to share those type of things with family. So there are, again, we're going to that it's the good side of things and there are a bad side of things. But my Instagram account, I get a lot of people that ask to be friends, and they're trying to market their business, and they ask to be able to see my timeline. And if I don't know them, or it's not something that I feel safe or comfortable showing, I'm not gonna allow them to view my Instagram profile.
Yeah,
so
that's smart.
I'm still very cognizant of that, and I still do my best to protect my privacy as much as possible.
Well, I think that's half the battle, is being cognizant of it. I think we're just kidding ourselves if we think that everything is on the up and up, because it's not. And I just think,
oh no, not at all.
Even on our phones these days, which I'm holding in my hand right now, when I get calls during the day, I would bet that at least 1/3 of them, if not half, are numbers I don't recognize, and I don't answer the calls, and they never leave a message. So I know almost without exception, it's a marketing call of some sort.
Oh, absolutely.
And so
I tell people that all the time. And going back to what we do, we share with our clients all the time that when they're calling out, because we have people submit their information to be contacted by one of these stores. And most of the time when a customer submits an email lead, they want to communicate through email. We understand that. But that doesn't mean as marketers that we can't reach out to them and try to get contact with them to sell them our product.
Sure.
So we will call, our process is to call that customer. Well, we a lot of these stores will not leave messages. And they're trying to catch the customer answering the phone. I said, would you do that? If you had a call from a phone number you didn't recognize, would you pick up? And 99% of them say, absolutely not.
Right.
So why would you expect these customers to pick up the phone when you call? You have to leave a message.
If you're doing multiple recontacts, then as someone who's on the receiving end of that, I see all of the same number over and over again, calling and not leaving a message. And that is,
I block the number.
That's the creeper blocking the number thing. That's exactly right.
Yep.
That's exactly right. So this is interesting. And so this will sound like we're segueing, but we're not. Have you ever been to Waikiki Beach, Nick?
I have not.
Okay.
Never been to Hawaii.
Okay. So first you need to do that.
Okay. I'll put it on my to-do list.
You really should. And put it up pretty high and in large letters so you can read it. Okay. Because I know your eyes are bad.
They are. Good cheaters. I need cheaters.
But and people will tell you, and I was told this, Waikiki is really commercialized and you're not going to like it. And you know what? I thought it was great. I really enjoyed Waikiki Beach, the whole area around that, because I came from the mainland when we visited. They are actually hosing down the streets at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I know, because I was at the gym at 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep any longer because you gain so much time when you
hosing down for what purpose?
To clean it off. So the main street that goes along Waikiki, they're hosing it because every night, you got people out there. It's pretty crowded, and you get people out there spilling stuff, and for whatever reason, it's a little messy. They hose it off every morning. So it's at least at the beginning of the day, it starts fresh. So that was just an aside, but it's very nice. And I highly recommend it. It's not a bad way. I prefer Maui. But Waikiki was very nice. There's a place.
The Rock played a fantastic Maui.
What's that?
The Rock played a fantastic Maui.
Wow. Nice. Well played.
That's my Disney reference for the day.
Yeah, well, you did very well.
Thank you.
There is a rather famous bar on Waikiki Beach called Duke's.
Yeah, I know of Duke's.
And there are Duke's. I think they originated in California, if I'm not mistaken. And so there are a few of them. But there are two that I know of in Hawaii that I've been to, at least. There may be more. Well, but one is on Waikiki.
Wasn't Duke a famous surfer?
Of a famous surfer, exactly right. And he was obviously a famous bar owner, too, because it's really a cool bar. And it's truly right on the beach. You do not find much better views than Duke's. I was sitting at Duke's at the bar, and let's say on vacation, so it was in the morning. Probably, let's say 10:30 or 11 a.m. And yes, I was having a beer.
That's what you do on vacation.
I know. Sitting next to a guy who we kind of struck up a conversation, but very light and so on. After about an hour, maybe a little longer, he told me that we talked about business. And as you know, Nick, we are pretty heavy utilizers at our company of Salesforce.
Yes.
Which is a CRM business oriented that works very effectively. This guy was the founder. He actually built the original Salesforce.
Oh, look at you.
And just a cool guy. And we were just shooting the breeze, and he was, very unassuming and, not looking for accolades. It just came up in conversation. He said his wife is a security expert, a PhD, and I'm not sure in what field, but in some sort of internet security.
Okay.
He said she forbade him from having a Facebook account.
Really? Interesting.
I know. So here's this guy who has perhaps the biggest cloud-oriented CRM on the planet. And his wife said, no, you can't have a Facebook account because she knows some of the security risks associated with it because of her expertise. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think that was the first time I hopped off Facebook was when he told me that story. Anyway,
Facebook News knows so much about you. You can actually go back into the settings and look and see exactly what Facebook knows about you, all the way down to your political leanings. Yep. And I read an article, and I went in there and I cleaned mine probably once every 6 months, because what ends up in the back end there also dictates what kind of ads you receive.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to receive specific ads necessarily. It's the same thing with your web browser. I have my web browsers, all of them, set to, when I close them, to automatically delete all of my cookies and all of my cache and all of my web browsing history. We use a VPN at work. I have a personal VPN on both my phone and on my iPad. And not that I really use them all that much. My thing too is, yes, I want to protect my personal information. I don't want people able to steal my identity, but I don't have a worry about privacy other than that. I want to keep my financials secure. I want to keep my identity secure. But beyond that, I don't do anything that I'm ashamed of. So why would I hide anything?
That's a really good point. And I would say I fall into that camp as well. I just think that, protecting what's out there is certainly something to be concerned with. But, and here's kind of one of the flip sides of it, is if it makes your experience easier or more efficient. There are a lot of things, for example, with Google that I prefer to sign in to things with Google, and some security experts might say that's terrible and don't, because Google knows even more about you than Facebook. Right. Especially when you're thinking about searching and things like that, what you search for and how to market to you more effectively. So but I want things to be easy. So now I use the iris scan on my Android phone, so I don't have to remember passwords or enter them.
Yes.
And things like that, that could be a privacy issue. Yeah, it certainly could be, but I'm making the choice to utilize some of these things because it makes my life easier.
Yeah. And going back to a statement you made earlier too, about policing yourself and making sure that you're accountable. That happens on this side too. So yeah, we use tools that make life easier. We use Google. We use Facebook to sign into things. We have
Alexa.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I have Google all over the house. We use those tools. So what I've done, because I still want to use them, I want to use them because it makes my life, my work more efficient. It makes things easier, and it helps to enjoy life. So what do I do on the back end? Well, for example, when I did my taxes this year, I paid for identity protection. That's probably a waste of money in some cases, but now I have that. I use a VPN to protect myself in a lot of places. Like if I want to pull up my bank account, VPN is on, and I use that. So yeah, my bank account is on my phone. I have my credit cards on my phone, but I'm adding other layers of protection just to protect me. So I have a tool to monitor. If something happens, for example, a couple of years ago, someone was able to hack my Starbucks account. I know that sounds weird, but I had my credit card in there. I got an alert right away. Someone hacked it. They took $400 from my credit card. Not only did Starbucks offer to repay, which they didn't have to, didn't come out of there, but my Amex card said this was fraudulent. You're getting the money back. And they went after the people. I was protected. I didn't have to worry about it. And of course, we changed the account, but they were on top of it. I knew within 20 minutes of something bad happening that something bad was happening. And I was able to rectify without any damage to my credit or to my identity or anything like that. So we also have to put things in place to protect us if we want to use these tools. We can't just rely on these companies themselves to protect us because, as you said, they're not going to.
It's sort of like a security system, and I am probably an overkill when it comes to security. I live in a small town and have a pretty substantial security system on my house. And
I'm right there with you.
And it's I'd much rather have it and have spent the money and so on and never have to use it than the other way around. It's sort of like, an insurance policy. But again, it's much the same as you. I'd rather take the extra steps to ensure that I'm going to be protected than, to be reactive after something already happens. So
Exactly.
You want to make your house less likely to be, even just because of the presence of the security system, I think I'm probably less likely to be robbed than a neighbor who doesn't have it. And no offense to my neighbors, I would protect them as well. But we want to look less attractive digitally than others. And by using a VPN, for example, you're way less attractive than somebody who doesn't have one and has no security on their Wi-Fi and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. And you make a good point. If someone's wants to get in, they're going to get in, period. What are you going to do to protect yourself? So exactly what you said, to make yourself less attractive so they don't even really want to
try. Do you remember the guy that was, it was one of the security protection services. It was like a subscription service, and I can't remember which one it was.
LifeLock?
It was that. And it was that guy who, the CEO, who put his social security number on their advertising. And he said, this is how sure I am that, and almost instantly he was hacked.
Yeah.
And it was sad in a way, but probably good in an even bigger way, that if not for him, but for his company and for others to see that if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but let's talk about some positive things too. You were talking about security systems. We use a security system. We have a security system. It's Wi-Fi enabled. It's, well, not Wi-Fi. It's the wrong term. It's internet based. So it's not like an ADT. It's like Ring. We have Ring cameras too. So we have cameras. We have an alarm system, and then we have other things in the house to protect us too, if need be. Good old bats and things like that. But anyway, so with the cameras in particular, okay, yes, they can get hacked. Sure. I have a pretty good Wi-Fi system in the house. Well, I don't have a good connection all the time, as we've learned, and we've complained about in one of our previous episodes. But I have a good Wi-Fi system in my house, which is protected. I've got firewalls. I've got I use VPNs to access certain things. So I'm pretty protected when it comes to that.
Sure.
But I do know that we talk about the wireless cameras, like the Ring, that can easily be hacked.
Yep.
I'm honestly okay with that, because if you hack them, it's not going to get you in my house.
Right.
But you might get to see the front of my house. Whoop-de-doo. Where it does help me, though, is on the positive side of things. There's a neighborhood. There's a community within the Ring system that you can see what's happening to your neighbors, and you can see things that you might want to be concerned about. For example, one of the reasons we got the cameras up is my neighbor had their car stolen. And, that no one saw it because our little area of our neighborhood just didn't have their cameras up yet. So they were caught eventually, but not because of our cameras. But we've had other neighbors who have had similar instances, or people going through their cars and things like that we were able to identify the people and get them caught very, very soon. But it also, using the car example, even though it was a different situation, once that happened and once we knew about it, everyone was making sure, double checking that their cars were locked. My wife, for a long time, still is actually. We have the garage locked. Her car's parked in the garage, and the car's locked. And she makes sure her keys aren't in the car. So, it just gives you that extra level of awareness when you know what's happening in the community. So we get these posts, we get these alerts that people have, have you seen this strange person? Well, we have a no soliciting rule in our neighborhood. So why is this person here? Are they solicitors? And then, other people will write back and say, I know who this is, and this is what they're trying to accomplish. So now we can allow those people in that we trust, or quote unquote know what they're doing there, but we can also report anything. And the police department here, the Nashville Police Department, monitors all of the neighborhood's Ring activity. Cool. So they can actually get all of that information, and they'll post things. Hey, this person's been caught. This is what they were trying to accomplish, blah, blah, blah. So it's really neat. And it all goes onto the Crime Stoppers map too, as well. So, that's a really good thing. So yes, could they get hacked? Absolutely. But the services they offer and the ability for us to protect our friends and family and neighbors far outweighs any possible negative consequence. And that's pretty much anything we do in life, whether it's social media or life in general. You're going to have pros and cons to
for
everything.
sure. And so you were talking about some of the pros, and I just from an amazement standpoint, just have to bring up YouTube just in general. I'm just amazed at, and there are some great statistics that I'm not going to bore you with, but the amount of video that is on YouTube is just totally incredible. And all of the things that you can pull up and how easy it is to post new video. I mean, even huge videos. There are, things on YouTube that, programs that you might want to watch that are over an hour in length. And you go, wow, man, I know what rendering takes for a size of a video like that. It's incredible. But it truly is an amazing element, being the second largest search engine behind Google, and Google owns YouTube. Right. It's just amazing. And of everything from recipes to, I bought a small smoker, and there are some.
Oh, nice. I'm coming over.
Dude, it's the best thing ever. And I'm learning, so I'm not great at some of the more difficult ones, but we had pulled pork after, I don't know, my second or third one. And man, it was amazing. And a beer can chicken in the smoker.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, but there are so many things on YouTube that will show you how to do it and do it more effectively. And, they don't always work, but most of the time it's pretty good information. And
oh, absolutely. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. YouTube is a great tool for us. So it satisfies some of our wanderlust, or it creates it. But I think even though it creates it, it does satiate some of that wanderlust when we're able to see all these other people that are out doing it. And it just kind of makes us, it causes
you're talking
us
about our RV thing, isn't it?
RV, our van life, sailing, things like that. Yeah, we want to do it. But on the same token, we get a little bit of the experience vicariously through those people on YouTube that kind of help us keep that wanderlust.
And I've always said that too about boats. I don't want to own a boat. I want to have friends that own boats.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with RVs.
Right. And social media too is a great tool. And I'm not talking about things like just Yelp or Facebook, but Instagram and YouTube and things like that can allow us to experience things that we may not know exist. For example, I just started following an account, I guess is the best way of saying it. I just started following an account on Instagram for things that are going on in Nashville. It's newer, but now they just post images on Instagram of things that are coming up or had happened in the past that I didn't know about. They post things about new restaurants that are opening. So yeah, it allows us to look at it and go, oh, well, that's neat, satisfy our wanderlust. But then when we're looking for a restaurant, we can go to this account and go, okay, these are all the new ones that are open. Hey, let's go try this one. And now we've got a map to it. We've got a link to their menu, and it's a great service for us. And it allows us to experience our own city and the things that are happening here. Because Nashville, while it's not a massive city, there are so many new things popping up every day. And we will never be able to visit every single restaurant in the city in our lifetime. But this allows us to at least know that.
And you can at least try.
Exactly. We're eating the pictures.
That would actually help me in my weight loss effort, I think. There are
tremendously. Yes,
you're right about that. And so, and even we talk about, and I'm not sure if it falls under a social media heading, but even like Google Maps, it's just amazing. I don't know what I would do without GPS these days. I really don't.
Oh, right.
And
yeah, I'm a Waze man by my.
Are you? And you know what? I have Waze on my phone, and I have not, because I think it's whatever you get used to. And as much as you and I tend to travel, I think that even carries more weight. I'm just very comfortable with maps, And
well, I use maps to kind of give an idea of direction. So I use a lot of them. I use them both, all three of them, because I have Apple, obviously, because I have an iPhone, and I have Google Maps, and then I have Waze. Yeah. I use Waze when I'm driving, mainly because I want to know where the cops are. Yeah, or accidents or things like that.
Maybe the cops want to know where you are.
That could be. Oh, well, you bring up a good point. So on Waze, yeah, I see where everyone else is, but anyone that has Waze pulled up could find me as well.
Yes. So they call it Waze Nick, because they can find where you are.
Well, but you make another good point, because here's a way these are all vulnerable things. If a police department, and please, police departments, if you are hearing this for the first time, don't take this and try to develop it, because this is my idea. But I will be happy to sell it to you and make millions off of it. A police department could find people on Waze, track not only where they are, but could track their speed, because Waze tells you how fast you're going.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. And you know what? I'm not a big speeder. I haven't.
Neither am I.
I have not had a moving violation ticket in 20 some years. And
I had an old friend that said, I have never had a speeding ticket. I've had a lot of excessive noise tickets, but never a speeding ticket.
That's funny.
Yeah. The point was, he was pulled over so many times for speeding, but he was able to talk himself out of the ticket, and they gave him an excessive noise because it's a lesser fine or something like that. Yeah.
So he starts negotiating for, you know what? I'll take an excessive noise for 200. And
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
It's a genius, really. But
yeah, you don't want the moving violation. But I think a lot of that comes down to common sense when you're driving. And so here we are off social media for a second, but it still is part of it, you know.
Wait! You can't use common sense and driving in the same sentence. We just had an episode about that.
I don't need to know where the police officers are, because I'm not speeding like you are.
Now you're being unusual.
Well, I'd say I'm probably unusual because I haven't had a ticket in such a long time, and I've been lucky a few times. I mean, let's not kid about it.
Yeah, don't forget your story about the cop that was pointing to the side of the road. Need I remind you about that? You said in one of our last episodes, you were driving down the road and the cop pulled someone over, and then pointed at you to pull over, and you just kept going.
Well, I think it was just.
See, I remember. I was
pointing at me. Well, I forgot about that too. That was in Ohio. He was pointing at me. So I didn't know the cop and don't live in that state, so I wasn't that concerned. And I think he was pointing because my wife was in the car and she's hot, so that's probably what it was.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
That's why I didn't pull over. I'm sure he wasn't meaning to. Right. That's it. It's not that I haven't been pulled over. It's just that they can't catch me.
There you go. Have you seen Super Troopers?
Oh, no. Yes, but I'm not proud of it.
Okay. That's a movie episode. Yeah. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it. That will be, I'm going to try and do as much of the time on Arthur and Ghostbusters and Anchorman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, meow. Okay, meow.
Meow, know how fast you were going? That was hilarious. That was really funny.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Right. A buddy of mine made me watch that. So here we are digressing. Made me watch that. And so I'm like taking notes as I'm going through it because I do not have a photographic memory. And I repeat back some of the lines that I thought were kind of funny. And he goes, I don't remember that one.
All right.
But the meowing was obviously the best ever.
Meow was hilarious.
My gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry. Back to social media.
Other than to say that there are so many beneficial things to social, and whether it is, something like Google Maps that may walk on the edge of social media, but because it's showing other people where you are, like Waze. Google Maps, I found this interesting when I was actually speaking at Google in Santa Clara. One of the guys on staff told me that the way they determine if traffic is slowing down is based on other Android phones and how fast they are physically going.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me. I didn't even think of anything like that. Whereas, so if this phone is now inching along 2 miles ahead of you, it's going to show up red on Google Maps.
Right.
So it is a form of social media, which is really interesting to me.
It is in many ways, because Google is even saying, you had just mentioned earlier, Google is the number one search engine, most used search engine, while YouTube is second. Yep. Well, YouTube is being challenged by Google Maps as a search engine, because people are searching Google Maps for information about restaurants and places to go, which it makes perfect sense. I use it all the time. When I'm out on the road and I don't know where I want to eat, I pull up the maps and I say restaurants, and it pulls up all the restaurants. And then I can pull up their website from there in the app, find the menu, set or make a reservation if I need to, all inside of Google Maps. So it's quickly becoming
differentiated maps from just Google in general. But I guess why wouldn't you?
Right.
You have that sort of traction.
That's why any clients listening, Google My Business is very important.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. Huge. And if you're not, I still go on maps and find businesses that aren't listed.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand that either. Apple Maps, interestingly enough, Apple Maps pulls most of their information, if not all of their information, from Yelp.
Oh, interesting.
So, and my point to that is there's a lot of integration now with all of the social media, because Yelp is not necessarily social media, but it is a reputation management tool for a lot of businesses, and it's a mapping tool, and people share comments about certain things. So technically, could it be considered a social media network? Maybe, absolutely. I think there's a gray line, and that I think is a whole other topic about how certain social media tools are they kind of straddle different industries and different things, so are they social media tools? No, maybe not, but they're not necessarily not.
Yeah.
YouTube is a perfect example. You had mentioned that earlier. YouTube is not technically a social media platform, but people use it in a social capacity.
Well, very much so, especially when you look at, the comments and how people are interacting with the videos. It's amazing. I mean, it really is. Yeah. There are some who have really just gotten it down to a science.
Yeah. So my prediction, quite honestly, based on that whole tirade that I just had, I think we are going to eventually have to start calling it something other than social media. I think it's going to have to, or we have to start encompassing everything under that moniker, because it is all integrating with each other and it's all becoming one thing.
Okay. So we need to come up with another name. So again, we can become multimillionaires with.
Yeah. Well, let's just call it the PoddiMouths Network.
Wow. Hey, that's Facebook is a PoddiMouth network.
Yeah, exactly.
That's brilliant.
Speaking of Facebook, though, John, I think we've beat this dead horse. Unless you've got another point that you wanted to make, I think I cut you off. So I apologize.
Other than to say that even with Facebook, it's just nice to get back in touch with friends and kind of see what they're up to, but you also learn about their posting habits, and sometimes that's not always good. Who are the most frequent posters, and what sort of crap how many cat videos are they putting up, and all of that. But it's another way to stay engaged with people if you do it the way I think that it was initially intended to be done. It's become so much more, not just Facebook, but others in terms of marketing, as you and I well know, because that's what we deal with in business. But it's still wonderful for the user if you use it in the right way.
Yeah. Well, and quite honestly, I think that opens up a whole other conversation. We might have to make this a two-parter, because you make an excellent point. A lot of the people that develop, I'll use the Facebook CEO here as the example, Mr. Zuckerberg. Do you really think that he had any negative intentions when he built Facebook? Do you think he had actually thought far enough ahead to say, these are the bad things that could happen on our network? These are the things that people could take advantage of? No, he was building a network for people to communicate. Initially, he wasn't even keen on selling ads on Facebook.
That's true.
He didn't know what it was going to be. Same with people with Twitter. Same with people, I'm sure, with Snapchat. They were very naive in what they thought the networks would be. And then they became something completely different as they've grown. And that's what's getting a lot of them in trouble. But I think we could spend a whole other hour on just that.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's chatter about, splitting up the networks now and what they can do and so on. And
and people looking at them as a utility more than something.
And there's an argument to be made for that because of how they've been used now and some would say abused. But yeah, it's certainly something that needs to be considered.
Okay, John, I'm making the decision. Let's make this a two-parter. However, this is how I want to go with it. I think we want to encourage our listeners to join in on the conversation. Give us your opinion. And then in the next episode, John and I will discuss. Actually, let's make it 2 episodes because of the way we record. We'll probably have one in between. But give us your feedback. Let us know what you think and what your feelings are about social media. And we will share some of your ideas and discuss them on the next episode of PoddiMouths. So head up to our social media networks. See how I roll that in there, John? Head up to our social media networks, our Facebook page, our Instagram, and let us know what you think. And give us your feedback. Give us your opinions. We'd love to hear you. If you want to just email us directly, you can at poddimouths@gmail.com. And if you want to help support the PoddiMouths podcast, head over to Patreon and become one of the people we not just lust after, but we love.
Yes.
John, anything else? Did I miss something? I think I missed something.
Well, no, but I have to tell you, we just went through an entire episode and we did not swear once.
Holy
I know. Well, there you go. You know what? I'm gonna tell my mom that you said that. She's gonna wash out your mouth with Tide Pods.
Just for fun, I might actually beep that out. So,
which Tide Pods or what you said? The S word.
The S word, but I think Tide Pods is a better idea. I'm just gonna beep out Tide Pods. I don't care about the curse word. I care about the Tide Pods. I don't want to influence people to start smoking Tide Pods.
No, not unless we invent the pipe.
All right, John. Well, thank you very much. You have a fantastic day, and this was fun.
You do the same. It was a great day, and thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.